Hello and welcome to another episode of the Help Is Here podcast, brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. Today I'm going to be talking about what to do after you have relapsed to pornography. And before we get into the real answer to that, I want to start off with a bit of an analogy, but also just sharing my experience over the last week. So I actually tried to run a marathon on Sunday. I was in Spain, in Seville, and I was with some friends. Basically what had happened is it was quite a while ago now, maybe like 7 or 8 months ago. I went on a bar crawl with a load of friends from my running group, and there's a guy called Arch who I'm quite good friends with. We were having a bit of a chat. There was this guy called Jack there as well. We're having a bit of a laugh, and we were probably on maybe like our 4th or 5th pint, so we had drank quite a bit at this point in time. And he brings up how he's running a marathon in Seville. And I was like, oh, Seville's so good. I'd actually been there on a different holiday on my own about a year or two prior to this conversation. I was like, oh yeah, I'll get involved, mate. Like, come on, like, it sounds so fun. So I signed up to the marathon right there and then. And what happens is more people on this bar call start signing up to the marathon. Next thing you know, we've got like 6 people going out and doing this run out in Seville in Spain in February. So over the last few months, I've been sort of trying to train, but it hasn't really worked out because it was probably about 6 weeks ago. I was on a really long run. So for me anyway, very long. So it's like a 25-kilometer run out with my girlfriend. Achilles is just like really, really hurting. And after that run, I basically couldn't walk properly for weeks. So I started going to the gym, do some physio, training my Achilles week after week. And I weren't really running much, to be honest. I was probably doing maybe 10K per week for the last sort of 4 weeks. I think I managed to squeeze in maybe 1 or 2 half marathons as well overall in my training. So I didn't really train much and was a bit underprepared for this big marathon race. Now, out in Seville on the Sunday, so I was with these friends from my running club. I was with my girlfriend as well because, yeah, one of the girls from that bar crawl ages ago actually ended up becoming my girlfriend, and, you know, I'd met her through my running club, but also my Ancoats readers group as well, which I run myself. So I'd met my girlfriend and, yeah, was out there having a good time in Seville. But we got this marathon on the Sunday. Comes to marathon day, I wake up, I have my coffee, I have a hydration tablet, and an energy drink, and it was a bad combination, to be honest. I'm walking down to this marathon, I literally throw up in the street. I'm like, this is not a good start. Get down towards like the bag drop-off place before actually entering the race. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I need the toilet so bad, like desperately. So I go and stand in this queue for the toilet. I actually walk outside of like the bag drop-off place, and I'm standing in this queue on the other side of the road. And this queue is a long queue. People in this queue are starting to get stressed out. Time passes on by. People start running towards the bag drop-off place, going to run towards the start of this race. It's actually getting quite late at this point because the race was meant to start at about 8:30. We were still standing in this queue about 8:25. Time keeps on passing by. And I'd stood in this queue so long and I needed the toilet so desperately that, to be truly honest, I was actually a bit worried about even making it back to the bag drop-off place without like needing the toilet so much that I just go there and then. And my friend back in England, my friend James from football, he told me a story not that long ago of his experience doing a marathon. And what had happened is he'd set out for the marathon. He hadn't done that much training either. And about halfway through, he actually ended up shitting himself. So he basically stumbled along and kind of waddled his way through the rest of the course, finished the marathon, was in the queue for the toilets, and got to the very front of that queue for the toilets, and right there and then shit himself a second time. And as funny as that story was, it always lives in my memory. And I might have actually even told that story once on this podcast before. But anyway, so I was scared of doing the same thing. Like, I was scared of shitting myself. So I stay in this queue. I didn't want to go back across the street to the bag drop-off and the start of the race. I stay in this queue because I'm scared I'm going to shit myself, essentially. Get to the toilet. That's done. But then I come out and I realise the race has started. Now, this race is going through this main road between where the toilets are and the bag drop-off place to like where the start of the race is and everything. So basically what this meant was I couldn't actually cross back over the road to start the race. So I had to run like an extra 2 kilometres or so all the way around this massive park and all this gated section and all of this stuff to the bag drop-off place, go like the round way round it, the back way, drop my bag off, come back to the start of the race. By this point, it's about 5 to 9, so about 25 minutes after the race has started. Start running the race. There's no one around me at all. I'm just on my own. It's a bit anticlimactic, when you sign up for a marathon and you've got like tens of thousands of people running, it's usually like an amazing atmosphere. But I'm just there running in the street on my own. There's a few people giving me like a half-hearted clap here and there. Keep on running, manage to catch up with people, keep going, start overtaking a lot of people, doing okay, picking up a bit of pace, get about halfway and I'm thinking, okay, we're kind of cooking here. I'm doing quite well. I'm running quite fast at this point. And then get to about 28 kilometres in, legs cramp up and I'm not in good shape. I'm feeling pretty terrible. Hadn't ran this far in my training at all. And I'm just thinking, yeah, I'm not built for a marathon. Like, what am I doing here? I should probably just stick to football and maybe go into the gym. I keep on running. At this point, my legs are seriously like seizing up, cramping up. I'm struggling along, keep on going. And I know that my girlfriend is in front of me somewhere. Now, she set out to get a really pretty insane time of around 3:15 to 3:30 because she's pretty rapid and she had trained properly, doing quite a few runs in her training over 30 kilometres. Keep on running. Eventually, I actually see my girlfriend up ahead and I'm like, oh no, like something's gone dramatically wrong for her to be this slow at this point in time, to be truly honest. And she's there on the phone to her mum. She's not having a good time. And then I decide, okay, I'll run the last 15 kilometres with my girlfriend, who at this point was walking because she got like properly injured and had also been sick. So we end up like basically walking, jogging. The end of this run, we get through it. I'm not going to lie, it was very uncomfortable. There was a lot of discomfort, but I kind of looked after her and to be fair, she actually really slowed me down in the end, but I was cool with that because she cares a lot more about running than me. I was more doing it as a bit of a fun sort of social thing anyway. So I get the race done and, go back to the apartment, have a shower and everything, go out for the evening, have a great time with friends. We have some good food, some good tapas, go to a Spanish bar, sit outside, have a few drinks, the rest of the holiday. Brilliant, great times. And I'm so glad I actually finished that race and I actually got an okay time for me as well. I was quite happy with it. Got my winner's medal. All right, sorted, all good. Now, you're probably thinking, all right, what has this got to do with relapsing and pornography? So let's just take a step back. What happened is I got injured. My Achilles hurt like maybe 6 weeks before the race. I did a lot of work on that Achilles. I was going to the gym probably 3-4 times a week, just working on the Achilles purely, doing like physio sort of exercises. And that's what enabled me to actually be ready for that race, like repair my Achilles and then also do a few runs as well to train for that marathon. When it comes to relapsing, what's going on is basically people setting out to do this thing, like overcome a porn addiction, a bit like going and running a marathon. It's obviously a different task entirely, but there's some similarities. It's a big task, to be honest, like overcoming a porn addiction for good. You've got to go through withdrawal. And so they're setting out on this task, but then they're relapsing part way through the task, like part way through their journey as such. And so what happens is they then have more desire, because when you relapse, that takes away the desire very, very temporarily. It gives you that moment of relief, right? But then what happens is you have way more desire. That's why people end up binging and edging and end up really stuck in this hamster wheel, this cycle going round and round and round, always relapsing. So to me, that's a bit like setting out on this mission, running a marathon, maybe getting 5 kilometers in, and then like spraining your ankle or breaking your ankle, even maybe breaking your leg. It's like you've got an injury at that point, like you're not ready to carry on running the race. You kind of got to go and like train and repair that injury, and then you'll be ready to stop the behaviour or you'll be ready to run the race. But what people are doing is like they're trying to run with like a sprained ankle, and it's not working. So maybe they get so far just through pure willpower, motivation, but eventually it's not going to work. Like it's not a sustainable way to overcome the problem. And so when I work with my clients, what we do nowadays is essentially if someone came to us and they were doing well for a few months, and I've seen this happen. I've seen people go many months without porn, they relapse once. All right. What that's going to do is create so much desire that their chances of engaging again in their compulsive behaviour dramatically increase, massively. And so then if they relapse again, then they're basically back in that addiction. It's like they're essentially injured, and what they need to do is actually go take some time out, like really understand our content and essentially start again, to be honest. It's like you got to sort of realise that a relapse is not part of the journey. You know, spraining your ankle during a race is not part of running. That's not part of it. But what's happened is people have basically been indoctrinated through a lot of the no-fap language to believe that like relapsing is just part of the journey and to just get back up and carry on. But it's relapsing which is what is creating the desire to relapse again, because you're strengthening those addictive neural pathways, and that's leading people to stay in this addiction indefinitely and wonder why they're in this trap for like 20 plus years or however long. It's because the relapsing is the problem. So relapse is not part of recovery. It's part of relapse. Relapse is part of relapse. So what we do is we get people on a straight line so that they learn the content first. You know, we actually say to our clients, don't even try and stop this behaviour until what we call a liberation day call, which is where we build everything out together, like a full 5-fact script based on the education that they've learned. So they take like videos and really understand the content in depth. And then only when they've understood everything properly will we give them the full tool to rewire the brain correctly and stay stopped for good. If someone was to relapse after their liberation day call, I'd actually recommend they take the program again from the start, because trying to just like manage, control an addiction is a bit like trying to do the running, like trying to run a marathon without strengthening your legs first, like trying to run on an injury. It's not a long-term solution. It's not going to work out. And the other thing with the kind of no-fap approach as well is it's a bit like, okay, so you relapse, let's say you get injured. It's like people are just passively waiting around thinking that it's the amount of days that go by which matters, when it's not. Because if you had a sprained ankle or you tore your Achilles or something like that, it's not about just waiting around for that Achilles to repair and then going off running a marathon. It's about you do some active work on that Achilles, you repair it, you strengthen it, you sort it out for good, you train, you run, and then you go off, you do your marathon and you complete it. And then once it's complete, it's done as well. And this is a really important point, because a lot of people think that staying in a porn addiction is something which you manage and control, and you try and minimize the amount you relapse, and you just do that for like the rest of your life. But I totally disagree, both from my own experience and that of my clients. Like what we do is we get people to a position where their brain's so rewired and changed through dealing with the discomfort, dealing with urge moment by moment, time and time again, thinking it through correctly, that those neural pathways actually change entirely, and you get to a position where you're not even going to have that desire anymore, or at least it's very, very infrequent, right? And I was speaking to a guy last night who's done over 6 months without porn, and he said he's not even really been thinking about this problem anymore. It's just like done, it's complete, like a marathon. Once it's done, it's done. So I just wanted to share that with you. Hopefully it helps. Hopefully you can take away a couple of insights and just know that permanent mental freedom is possible. And at least from our perspective, it's really the only way to overcome addiction for good, because if you're still relapsing, then you're still in the addiction, you're still in the cycle, you're still creating more desire. And another thing that was really, really valuable to hear last night was I was talking to a different client, and he was on about one of the biggest insights he's had from taking our program. And the thing that he said is that desire creates desire. So up until doing the work with us, he'd always felt like engaging, like relapsing, would take away that desire. But what he learned is that all it does is it gets you out of that temporary moment of relief from the discomfort of withdrawal. But actually, that's what creates the desire. That's what keeps people stuck in that cycle, going round and round and round indefinitely. So yeah, hopefully this is useful. If you do want to start learning how to rewire your brain correctly, I'll leave a link in the description so you can inquire about having a one-on-one call with me. And what we can do on that call is get you the first 2 facts which get people out of this relapse cycle, going round and round. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.